But there's a missing element to that, which is why so many people haven't succeeded.
Well, and maybe this is it. Isn't it true? Many people using the law of attraction and try to attract a new car or more money failed. How do you explain that?
It is true. You know, people that were in The Secret and talked about the law of attraction, they've been on the Oprah show. They were on Larry King. And both Oprah and Larry King mentioned a lot of people bought The Secret, tried to apply the law of attraction, and unfortunately miserably failed. They didn't attract the new car. They didn't attract the better job. They didn't attract the better career. They didn't attract the big home. They didn't attract money to pay off their bills. They didn't attract a relationship that they so desperately wanted. And they got very frustrated. But the fact is, there's a missing ingredient.
What's that?
Well, if you go back to where this started, Andrew Carnegie, at the turn of the century, was the richest man in the world. He owned U.S. Steel. And he hired a guy by the name of Napoleon Hill to study the rich people in the world, including Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Firestone, J.P. Morgan, all the super wealthy, and write a book about what is the secret. Well, he wrote a book in 1926 called The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. Henry Ford saw it, went crazy. Basically said, we don't want people to know the truth. They got it pulled off the market. He edited it out, and now the watered down version came out. And then the even more watered down version was Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. That was so watered down. So people bought that in the millions, and a very small percentage actually found it to cause them to be successful. There's a missing element. Now what happened with me is I've used this in my life, and I've been incredibly successful. I've taught it to some very close friends. One particular gentleman in Portland, Maine, I taught the technique to. He went from working at UPS to, in 2 years, having a $150 million a year company. I taught it to a guy in Massachusetts. He was working in a pizza parlor, living in a one-bedroom apartment, sleeping on a mattress, a blow-up mattress on the floor. And 2 years later, had over a $200 million company. $200 million in 2 years, working at a pizza joint. I taught it to a lawyer in Maryville, Indiana, who was working a little tiny one-man law firm. Doing well, but a little tiny one-man law firm. I taught him this, and a few years later, hundreds of millions of dollars in a business. So I've taught it to some people all across the world that have went from zero to hundreds of millions. Now, that's just money. But what occurred was, people said, Kevin, you need to write a book or do an audio cassette program or a seminar. And I said, look, I'm not Tony Robbins. You know, and I'm not going to be running around, nothing wrong with that guy, but you know, there's guys like Brian Tracy, who's a friend of mine, who does a brilliant job. Zig Ziglar for years was a motivational speaker. One of my mentors, Ed Foreman, Executive Development Systems of Dallas. These are great motivational speakers. I said, that's not me. You know, I'm actually doing business. I'm not selling courses on how to get rich. I'm actually getting rich. But I was convinced, because so many people came to me and said, we want to know what you know, because you obviously know something that these gurus don't.
Well, what was the missing link? I mean, I still don't.
Well, let me finish to tell the story here. So what happened was, a couple years ago, I decided to teach some people that I needed people that was serious about wanting more out of their lives. People that either wanted a better relationship, wanted to find a lover, wanted to get into a husband or a wife situation or a romantic relationship, wanted a nicer car, wanted riches, wanted something in their life, but they didn't have it. So I said, okay, fine. For 2 days, I'm going to teach a seminar. First one I've ever done in my life. And I'm going to reveal secrets that I learned from the Brotherhood, from the organization I was a part of, that I was sworn to secrecy, kind of the missing secret ingredients to the law of attraction. So I held this in the Alps in Europe, figuring that it would cost a lot to get there. And I charged $10,000 per person. So a bunch of people came. And for 2 days, I taught them the secrets of how to have, be, or do whatever they wanted. And I entitled the lecture, or the workshop, Your Wish is Your Command, How to Manifest Your Desires. It's virtually, I wanted to teach people how to have their own Aladdin's lamp. They could rub it and a genie would come out that would grant any wish they wanted. Now, it sounds too good to be true, and it's great. But I said $10,000. I said, if you're not thrilled, after 3 months, I'll give you your money back. So a bunch of people came. I said, you be the judge. So now, that's a pretty strong offer, because if you paid 10 grand, plus an extra couple thousand to go to Europe and the Alps for 2 days, and you got 90 days to say, was that worth it? You know, if it wasn't worth it, I'm getting it. Everyone's asking for their money back. So I taught them these secrets and I recorded it. 3 months later, I didn't get one single person ask for their money back. Every single person told me they felt like they were pre-programmed, or their brain was tuned to a different frequency, so that when they left, it was almost like magic. They were attracting into their life things, and they couldn't believe it. They felt miracles were happening, that they were lucky. One guy on the second day, he said, look, I have a Ferrari, I have a Rolls Royce, I fly around in private jets, I have money. I don't have a woman because I'm looking for a relationship. After day one, he went to a restaurant. The next day, he tells the story in the event. He said, I sat there by myself. This woman walks over to me and says, excuse me, are you sitting alone? He said, yes. She says, so am I. Oh, you're American. He says, yes. She goes, do you mind if I have dinner with you? He said, she lives 2 miles from where I live in America. He said, I thought you had set this up. He goes, and I'm thinking, wait a minute here. Kevin sent this woman over. This can't be real. Of course, it was real. But that's the type of magic that can happen that fast. So I put this together in the series, Your Wish is Your Command.